Another Sunday, another case of the Scaries to start your work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries, where we have all your gore, lore, and more, covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour that cup of coffee and turn on your fright light while we take you on a tour of terror. Dylan, still feeling that hangover from Halloween ends, I suppose. Getting into a lot of new horror content. We just celebrated the anniversary of our beloved Halloween 3.
Yeah, no, that was a fun video. I enjoyed shooting that. I enjoyed editing it. I hope you guys are enjoying watching it because it's definitely a great time. Anytime we can sit here and talk about the Silver Shamrock and Dr. Chalice and all those wonderful characters who were overlooked for so long. And yeah, I
Only the
mean,
tip of the
just
iceberg, too, because we barely
seriously,
touched on anything in that
yeah, I
video.
mean, we talked for 55 minutes and it's just like we still have a good bit that we can cover. Um but I'm always down to talk Halloween 3. So anytime we want to pull that card, I will be here for it because that movie is one of my all-time favorites. And we get into that a little bit. We talk about how that's just not only a great movie in the sense of just what it is, but it's also the in my opinion, and I believe yours as well, it's just a great movie to watch around this time of year. Like it just gives you those Halloween vibes.
Absolutely fantastic. Really gives you that fall feeling, of passing out candy, kids running around in costumes. I mean, I think Halloween 3, while being original, really encapsulates probably one of the best films in that franchise of just Halloween and uh, making you. I think I said it in the video, the warm and fuzzies. When you have that fall outside. And the Halloween decorations, all that stuff. Halloween 3 absolutely encapsulates that.
No, I agree. It's one of those ones that whenever we get around this time of year, even when we're not, like we said in the video, like even if it's just the middle of the summer, I'll throw it on if I just want to get those October vibes going. And like I said, we watched it in preparation for that video. I watched it again yesterday, so it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's in the rotation.
And, we've been really flooded with horror content over the last few weeks. I would say this is probably a lighter week for us in terms of, I don't know, releases maybe, and just general news in general. We just haven't had a lot of different things. I don't know if it's been, you really, there's so many things happening at the beginning of October, and then you have Halloween Ends coming out, and it's really like that is the big tentpole film of the month. So it's like maybe there's just a little hesitation to release any more news, within the next couple weeks.
I mean, on the news front, yeah, this was definitely a lighter week than most. Even last week, we had a few lighter stories. I'd say we were able to pull some good stuff out of it, though. But um, you know, I think you're right. We just kind of get to that point now where it's like all the content that we had been building up to the last few months and discussing is kind of hitting, and so now everybody's just kind of consuming that. And obviously, with us being here on the channel, our objective is to get to it first, get reviews out and everything. So for us, that kind of just goes, and then we're kind of in this space of just like, oh man, like we're running out of time, we're running out of running out of things to watch. So it's just one of those things where it's like now we can kind of sit here in our little lull space and just kind of enjoy it because I mean yeah, the September leading into those first 2 weeks, man, was busy as a hell. So like I'm definitely here for a lighter week. This was definitely recuperating for me, but I am definitely excited to kind of get some things going. As we are doing behind the scenes, we've been talking about some of the announcements we're going to be making here at the end of the month, and then also just prepping for the next couple holidays. Because I mean, we're not going to have as big of a showing for our Thanksgivings and our Christmas, but we're definitely going to do some fun stuff for that. So got to prep that content early so that way we get it out.
Oh yeah, always trying to keep it fun and unique here on the channel. But yeah, since we don't have a ton of discuss, why don't we just hop into the format of the show with the kill of the week? Always spine tingling, I tell you. You create the real chills there, Dylan.
I do my best. I do my best. But Luke, let us know what are we talking about today? Let's set it up for us. Tee us up.
Well. This is a special one for me, and now I believe a special one for Dylan because we just recently did a podcast on this entire film, and it was new to Dylan. Just introduced him to it. Now we're consuming Chucky season 2 every week here on the channel for Primetime Terror. So Dylan is pretty well versed now in the lore of Charles Lee Ray. But
I'm getting
today
there.
we are talking Child's Play 2 and Miss Kettlewell, Chucky.
Yeah, this was definitely one of the highlights of that movie. I mean, they set her up real well, just being kind of an asshole. Of course, everybody's kind of being a dick to Andy in this movie, but she was exceptionally one of those ones where it's like you knew when she came on screen, okay, yeah, you're gonna die, and I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah, she was a perfect, like, annoying teacher, the real stickler, especially when, well, I guess Chucky writes some distasteful phrases on Andy's homework, and then he becomes the kind of focus of Miss Kettlewell's wrath. And then when she sees that good guy doll, she still doesn't believe Andy, who's jumped out the window by this point.
Yeah, right. You got the
Um,
fuck out of there.
he was like, "See ya. Hope all is well, Miss Kettlewell." But as we see here, it is not.
No, it is not. And this is a great reveal. Like I love the whole you know, you think that it's going to be coming from behind the coats and then as Chucky likes to do, he likes to be up on the little shelf above here because this is not the first time that he's
Oh,
done something like this. Yes, and that
look at that terrifying
fucking
face.
horrible. Yeah. The idea of getting stabbed and then having air pumped into your wound though, like that's just pumping air bubbles into your bloodstream, like oh, that's fucked up.
You know,
That's how they kill a couple people in Halloween too, and it's kind of a morbid kill when you think about it.
and it's scary, but also fun just because of he's using what is actually in the little closet there, and then he
Hmm.
goes to town with the ruler here. Just a lot of fun stuff going on in this kill here because again, this is something where they were able to kind of keep that tongue in cheek stuff, but also make it terrifying.
No, I agree, and I think that that's like again the beauty of Child's Play and Child's Play 2, because you're right, they do kind of keep that, and I'd say Chucky to an extent, the series.
I think so too.
They keep that tongue-in-cheek nature of it, where it's still fun and can be funny and interesting, but then when they do want to turn on the horror, it's easily just a flick of a switch, and they can get it. It's a delicate balance, but I feel like they walk it really well in these movies,
Yeah,
which is again why I think I haven't dove into the other sequels yet. Just because from what you say, it's like they kind of lean a little harder into the comedy in some of them, and then some
yeah.
of them are just a mess across the board as far as where they're at tone wise. So it's just kind of like I'll get there, but I'm just taking my time, especially because we're doing the primetime terrors every week, so I get a dose of Chucky every single week now. So I'm just kind of like I'm gonna hold off, wait till we get to a dry spell, and then I'll go through those.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've listened to the Splattercast episode for Child's Play 2, everyone knows this is my kind of definitive Chucky. This is really, original Child's Play is iconic, but it really feels like, they didn't realize they had a franchise in their hands at that point. They didn't really know it was going to be a hit. They were just trying to figure out what to do with this in terms of balancing the horror with any comedy here. And I think they were really hesitant to go the comedic route with a lot of different things just because uh you don't want to deflate the horror or the suspense of Charles Lee Ray coming to life. Whereas this one, I think they went full bore. This one, they made the Chucky movie they thought they should have made in the first place, which it really feels like that. I know the scene that we're actually dissecting here was such a big shot. I think it put them back a full 24 hours of filming because of what the director wanted to do here. So, I mean, this was such a big deal. And I mean, you could see this is a scene that sticks out, I think, thinking back on Child's Play 2. This is such an iconic scene. I mean, when we get to the good guy factory at the end, I think those are filled with iconic scenes. But like this, up until that point, it's such an iconic kill. I mean, you see it. There are gifs everywhere of this one of Chucky with the ruler in his hand. I mean, it just became such a definitive scene in the franchise itself.
No, I agree, and we'll dive a little closer into that kill there. So yeah, it's like as we said with the little fake out with the ball there, and I misspoke when I said that it was coming from the top shelf because it just seems like that's something that I know happened a couple times with those closets in
Yeah,
both the first and second where he would drop from that top shelf. So but yeah, no, and just slamming into the desks and everything like that. It's pretty brutal. And the funny thing about it is, and I criticized this on the episode of the podcast, is that she locked Andy in the room before she went to, I guess, talk to the principal or
yeah,
whatever. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's just like, is she, does it lock behind itself or whatever? Is she just trapped in there with him as well? It's just kind of like, that's kind of what ran through my head when
yeah.
I was sitting there, and they're kind of like getting a taste of your own medicine because, like, yeah, I, I don't know what possesses you. It was a different time, sure, but like to just lock a child in a room in a school, like there's like 25 lawsuits right there alone.
Listen, she wasn't thinking straight. She had a vendetta against Andy at that point,
No,
thinking he
you're
wrote
you're damn right she did.
calling
She
her a
was
bitch on his homework. It was a done deal for him. She was gonna uh, lock him in that closet for a good 24 hours. She was down there.
the medieval torture when it comes to the old ways of schooling, I guess you should say.
There you go. It's like you ever see Matilda, but they have the chokey in there with
Yeah.
the nails and all that stuff. That's what it was gonna
Oh,
be.
Jesus.
Andy was
But
in for it.
yes, as far as kills you could have selected from this franchise, definitely one of the most memorable. Aesthetically, the way it's done and what is used, I would say. So yeah, and I mean, it plays even better when you can actually hear the sound of the clip and everything. With
Yeah.
YouTube, we can't play it, obviously, but it's one of those things where it's like when Chucky's sitting there taunting her and everything, as he always does. It just all plays so well. And you're
Yes.
right, dude. Like honestly, I know I said this a lot, but Chucky looks fantastic in this
Yep.
movie.
The
I would
expressions
say,
alone in that scene right there from when he first gets her with the inflator for the ball there, as he's just kind of very really looking aggressive and terrifying, and then as soon as he's coming out of the closet with the little grin on his face, ready to kill Miss Kettlewell, the expressions look great. It's
mhm,
one of the things where I think in those first three films they really made Chucky look a lot different, really terrifying. And I mean, he looks good now, but um, I think the method that they were using in those first three films, I mean, he just looks on another level.
I agree, and I think like even compared to the show, because I know that that's been a criticism of mine before, where it's just like I think at times he looks really good, at other times, he just looks a little odd to me. Um, but overall, I'd say the show is quality with what they're doing. But like, yeah, this is definitely, I think, peak Chucky when it
Yeah.
comes to the look and everything and the performance. It all just looks so well done.
And I don't think we have another one. I think this might be the first, at least from my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is the first time we have a repeat offender here on the Kill of the Week. We did Bride of Chucky
Yeah.
episodes ago, and
Um,
now we have Chucky 2.
technically Jason, because of Ted White's kill last week, but Jason was the one that died in
That's true,
there.
yeah.
But
No,
I mean, I guess that's up for debate. But
we get in a
yeah,
gray area there.
yeah,
So I'm going to count Charles Lee Ray Chucky here as our first repeat offender. So he gets
there
the
you
gold
go.
star
Hell yeah. But I think it's time we pay our respects.
to good old Miss Kettlewell.
Good riddance, in my opinion. I'm just saying.
Listen,
Um,
who would have did she? Do you think that when she graduated and got her degree in education, that she's like, one day, Killer Doll's gonna get me by hitting me or beating me to death with a ruler. Who knew Miss Kettlewell was gonna go out in that fashion? listen, all she wanted to do was teach kids.
I don't think anybody expects to get murdered in these movies by a killer doll, but hey, you're right. I guess, where she saw herself, her 5-year plan after getting her degree was probably not that. But fuck it. I guess there's worse ways to go.
The world works in mysterious ways, I suppose. But why don't we hop into the next topic here, the history of horrors.
Trapped in the Middle Ages.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
So we have Prince of Darkness. This is coming out on October 23rd. We have directed by John Carpenter. This is part of the Apocalypse trilogy, along with The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness. And of course, starring the lovely Donald Pleasance. What a team up between John Carpenter and Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, obviously their most iconic pairing. Just kidding. We all know that's Halloween, but no, this is definitely a good one. I've only ever seen it once. Like we were discussing it before we started recording here, where I think this has only been a one-off for both of us, right? You've only seen it one time?
No, I've seen Prince of Darkness maybe not that many, probably maybe 4 max. So it's one of the ones that, in terms of viewing John Carpenter properties, it's on the lower end for me. It's one that's I've watched. I have never fully gotten into. I don't dislike it. It was just it feels like maybe a slightly different tone than you're used to with John Carpenter, but not in a bad way. Just a little bit different. I will say, in the last viewing of mine, I think I did find a new appreciation for it, because it is really well done. It's just not talked about as much, especially when you're coming out of the same, in between kind of, what is it, Big Trouble in Little China, and then you have They Live coming out, where it's like, I think this is sandwiched in between both of them.
Not as like eccentric as those two are.
Yes.
This is very much a little bit more serious and a little bit more
It's
subdued.
heavier, yes.
It is. It's very heavy. But it's, because you're right. When you compare it to what he had been like releasing at that time, like you're talking about like peak zany fun Carpenter. Because say what you will, I mean, like I put like Escape from New York and Big Trouble and They Live on that same pedestal of Carpenter as to where I put like, Halloween and The Fog and The Thing on their own kind of like island there.
Yeah.
So then this would be like, for me, this one falls into that like very much with like that In the Mouth of Madness kind of Carpenter.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. I think that's kind of just different. Not as fun, so it's not one of the ones you're not gonna put on in terms of pass the time, which I find myself doing quite often with Big Trouble in Little China. Even They Live, obviously that's my favorite, or Christine. Whereas this one again is a little heavier. I don't know, maybe it's the religious theme for me, where it kind of weighs a little bit heavier for me, the circumstance and everything like that. But watching it this last time around, I will say there's a lot of potential here. In terms of, I don't think anyone needs to ever remake this, but there's more potential here with the characters to tell an even long form story here, because it is an interesting kind of concept when you really sit down and think about it. And the idea of kind of, I don't know, they're throwing up evil basically in everyone's mouth, which is a very different kind of concept. And it does end up being a lot of fun when you kind of really sit down and kind of dissect this one.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, you have to be in the moment. Like you said, it's a heavier film. So it's like you kind of have to pick and choose when you want to watch it, in my opinion. I know this doesn't seem like the most rousing review that we're giving of the film, but it's just one of those things. Like I said, I've only ever seen it once, and it's kind of on its own little island for me. But I mean, still, we're talking about Victor Wong came back to work with him. Donald Pleasance. There's all these great people. Even just like little actors that you don't really see all that often. in film. Like I know one recognizable face was, I gotta pull up his name, but I know he's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Dirk Blocker is in this movie. He plays Scully on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So it's one of
Okay.
those things where it's like, you have like a lot of character actors in this movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then of course some Carpenter regulars. And it's just one of those things where it's like they do all bring a really great performance, and it is just interesting. I definitely think after talking about this on here, my interest is kind of piqued to revisit it again, because like I said, I watched this and In the Mouth of Madness, I think almost, if I'm not, it could have been on the same night when we were still peak pandemic. I think I was one of those nights where I was off the next day, so I just watched a bunch of movies, and I watched those two, I think, back to back. So I was just like, I do need to go back and give it another viewing. It's just another one I don't own, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think it just recently came to 4K, or is
I
about
believe
to.
so. Yeah.
So
It hasn't been out that long.
I will have to grab it to put it in my Carpenter collection.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking as well, because I do want to rewatch this one. I haven't watched it, and I honestly, I think I gave this one a viewing maybe like 4 months ago randomly, and that's kind of when I started. I think that's where I came out of that one thinking, oh, this is a little more fun than I had given it credit for originally. I remember the score being a lot of fun as well. I don't hear.
Always. I mean, the score is always going to be something special when it comes to Carpenter.
And there's a lot of good things going on in this film. So this is one that I do think maybe eventually we'll tackle for Splattercast,
Oh yeah,
because
we're gonna go through his whole
yeah,
filmography. In my mind, we'll definitely get to it at some point.
yeah, but it is still a lot of fun. It's one that I need to revisit, and I think that is probably the process there, where you watch the thing and you instantly love it, or They Live maybe, or a handful of other Carpenter films where sometimes you have to watch them a handful of times to really get that appreciation. I think Prince of Darkness may be in there as well.
That's fair. Yeah, I would say definitely, even just from our experience and our conversation here. Yeah, you probably need to find yourself rewatching this one a couple times to really like get it ingrained in your psyche, like some of the other ones have.
Absolutely. Well, all right, let's hop into our actual topics for the week. Let's get into possessed dolls, demented nuns from hell, and a crooked man. The Conjuring universe has it all, and it is getting a little bigger. The fourth installment in the namesake franchise has been announced, and it is officially in development. Writer David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick has been tasked to write the new story. He is also responsible for the latest 2 entries in the Conjuring franchise. While details on what case they will be tackling next are still under wraps, fans of the franchise can bet the Warrens will be diving deeper into the realm of the supernatural. Is there still a lot of stories to tell with the Warren clan, or is this a franchise that should be dragged to hell with Valak? Now, for me, I do enjoy the first one. I think I've seen some of the second one. I may have seen it all, but it's just not memorable to me. And then, like the third one, just on a weird circumstance, I actually ended up watching the whole film. So
It
it
was on HBO Max.
it was. And I didn't really like the third one at all. So, and the second one, I don't remember liking too much. So I can really only say that in terms of straight The Conjuring, that part of the franchise, I can really only say I like the original.
Yeah. So I'm there with you on the original. I love it. I think it's a really strong outing. And I actually really enjoy the sequel a lot. Like I'd say those two are my favorites in the Conjuring franchise. And then I'd probably put Annabelle Creation as my third. And then once you get past that, it's kind of like you can just give or take whichever one at that point.
Yeah,
They're all kind of duds
interchangeable in
for me at
quality.
that point. And that's not to say like, Patrick Wilson and Via Farmiga are anything wrong with that. I don't think the cast and like any of these movies is really the problem.
No.
I think it's just, James Wan sets these expectations with him when he's helming something, like his writing and directing, especially like when he's doing that himself. And it's so hard to follow that up. And, it's just one of those things where I was also like you. I didn't care for The Devil Made Me Do It. I watched that one, and I did watch it at home, and I was nodding off the last probably 10 to 15 minutes of that movie. So it was definitely hard to keep my attention. Kind of when we got to Patrick Wilson running around. I think wasn't he running around like a cave or something with that with an
Yes.
axe, and it
Yeah.
was very Shining like. I was just kind of checked out at that point. I was like, okay. Um, and this was just one of those things where it's like it was an interesting, I guess, enough concept for the story, but it just felt really spread out and all over the place, with like kind of the trial and then how they chose to tell the story. Because you think setting it up that the trial is going to be the story, but then it's like no, they kind of just buzz through all that, and then it's all on to the haunt, which I mean is to be expected with these movies, but it just didn't grab me. It was just one that I wasn't really enthralled by. And the guy who directed that, he directed The Curse of La Llorona, which is another one that just didn't really do it for me. I thought that was just an okay movie. I wasn't impressed. I don't even think I ever finished that one, if I'm being completely honest. I got through about halfway and then never revisited it. But I mean, they're gonna keep this going. It's a money-making franchise. I think we would have seen the kind of the wane a little bit harder had COVID not hit, and had they not had that deal with HBO Max, because they can really just throw anything, if that movie didn't do well in theaters, on the fact that was on streaming as well. So it's like that kind of gets another shot here. So it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, am I interested? Sure. But, am I going to watch it? Probably. But it's not going to be one that I'm anticipating, unless they're like, because they haven't announced who's going to be directing it. But I take it since James Wan's not writing it, he's probably not directing it. I'm sure he's busy because he's finishing up Aquaman, and then I'm sure he's going to do
I
some
think he's
other
a
things.
producer. I think he was also named as a
Yeah.
producer on the fourth one. So
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where it's like, if he was to miraculously somehow get himself attached to it as a director, then my interest would be re-peaked. I'd be like, okay, because obviously I'm a big James Wan fan, and I think that what he did with those first two movies is really special. The only other person I would say they could attach to it that would grab my interest again, going back to the Conjuring alum, would probably be David F. Sandberg, from Annabelle Creation, or if they kind of branch out of their usual pool. So, if they were to get somebody who was, not the director of Curse of La Llorona or Annabelle Comes Home, because I know that guy's done a couple of these as well, I believe. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm of two minds of it. As you can tell, I'm a little split. But for me, I think I can solidly say that I'm kind of hopping off the Conjuring wagon
yeah,
pretty quick here.
and I think I've kind of been that way after that first film, because like I said, I wasn't that pleased with the second one. I think there's just so much of a varying quality here. It's hard to kind of get excited when they announce another installment in any of these things across the board, whether it's Annabelle. I think they're doing The Nun too, and then The Conjuring, where some of these kind of feel, especially I'll go this way with The Nun, as we were just talking about Prince of Darkness, where some of the content seems a little too heavy for me to actually enjoy the film, where, um, like in The Devil Made Me Do It, where it's just so much to consume, it doesn't feel fun at all. Whereas at least in that first Conjuring film, it's your basic ghost story. I mean, uh, you can sit down, you can digest that one, and it feels in line with a lot of horror that you can consume. But sometimes I feel like they go a little bit off the rails, and they get a little heavy in terms of the storytelling and everything, and it kind of fizzles my enjoyment out of ever watching the film again. So what is it, Annabelle Creation? Again, I think that's a great film. I haven't seen Annabelle Comes Home, so I can't really say too much or comment on that one, but I heard that one again is in varying quality, where it's like watching the first Annabelle I wasn't pleased with. seeing Annabelle Creation, I was like, oh, finally, this is the Annabelle movie that I wanted. And then I did have some sort of expectation for when Annabelle Comes Home, but then I had heard coming out of that film that a lot of people weren't, it wasn't as good as Creation. So it was like I never got around to seeing it, and that's where I'm kind of sitting here with The Conjuring 4, where I'm like, yeah, I mean, even once we get the actual story, if whatever case they're going to be solving or anything, that's even going to be a hard sell for me. It's got to look really good, I think, for me from a trailer perspective, for me to even entertain the idea of going out to see that one. Just because, for me, the Conjuring universe is just something where I guess it's so big. It seems like it's so general audience to me, where it's like that's the go-to for probably a lot of general audiences. This and like Insidious probably are like the two big franchises that a lot of general audiences are familiar with. Where for me, it kind of I don't know. I don't know if it's an elitist take or not. Where I'm like, oh, I'd rather go see something that's a little smaller or niche, or not that everyone's not seeing. So it's got to sound really good to me for me to actually go out and check these out.
No, I agree. I whether we do sound elitist or not, I think that it's justified in that sense, though,
Yeah.
because it is what it is. It is very popcorn, audience pleasing.
Yeah.
You're coming in here to get
It's not
spooked kind of
unique.
horror. It's
Like,
it doesn't bring anything that breaks the mold, other than I would say that first film. And
yeah.
it has those that flair to it of like, we're really harkening back to the 70s style
And
of horror, and they lose that as these movies go along.
yes, and that's where it's like I feel like that first, The Conjuring, and we kind of had a run there where, what was it? This, and then oh my gosh, was it Sinister came out? I think around the same time, maybe they
Oh
were very
no, Sinister was a few years before Conjuring. Conjuring was like 2013. Sinister was 2011. Oh, okay, maybe it was
okay.
only a couple
Well, yeah,
years.
I'm not saying like they came out like coinciding months wise or
Oh, you know what?
uh
You're right. Yeah, Sinister was 2012. You think I should know that, considering we
yeah. What
did
the
a
hell,
show
man?
on. I'm sorry. Everything's running together.
Look at this. You're totally
Uh,
derailing my point.
I'll continue.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if it's accurate now, so I can't even tell you.
Okay, yeah, so it was a year later, 2013.
Okay. So yes, they came out in a very very similar here, where I feel like those types of films kind of ignited something. They felt original to that time, where it was something different. It felt like, especially years prior, where we were getting what is that movie, like The Possession? There's a handful of other films that are like that. We've touched on them before, where it seemed like horror in a general horror like that really lost its way.
It was
And
sterilized.
yes, and it wasn't unique at all. And I think like Sinister and Conjuring were two films that really had come out near each other, that kind of started injecting a certain uniqueness into it. And then you're right, where it's like they lost that flair as it continued. And again, I think maybe you probably see that with Sinister and Sinister 2 as well, where it's like, after that first film, it just doesn't feel the same. Maybe they bring some of the elements back for the sequel, but as it gets further and further down the line, they lose it. And I think Conjuring is guilty of that here in 2022. So it's like that fourth installment, they have to go back to basics, I would hope so, and kind of really get that flame that was built at the very beginning back.
They're gonna have to, but again, I don't know. We're just gonna have to see who they attach as a director. Like I said, if they swing for the fences and they get somebody out of left field, like who's somebody who hasn't done anything in a while, who I think could bring some life to this. I'm thinking of his name, and it's not rolling off the top of my skull there, but he did Blue Ruin and Jeremy Saunier. Could you
Yes.
imagine him coming on and doing something like that? Because he's
What
got
is
that
he up
real,
to?
real dark kind of like thing. Let's see. We'll see
He
what
would
he's
be
got going on.
he
And
would be a
then,
very intriguing pick.
can you think of anybody else that you'd like to see maybe tackle this to kind of return it to its former glory?
Oh, I really can't think anyone at the time. You really threw a curveball here. Uh, uh, no, I can't really think anyone, unfortunately.
Already, Jeremy Saulnier has a film that he wrote and directed, supposedly coming out called Rebel Ridge.
Oh, okay.
All it says is it's a high velocity thriller that explores the systematic American injustices through bone breaking action sequences, suspense, and dark humor.
Oh, okay.
Real general there, but hey, it's got Don Johnson in it apparently, so we'll see how that one goes.
For Conjuring, I don't know. Maybe Dean Trachtenberg can do something with it, and bring something different to it. I don't know. He did Lights Out, didn't he?
No, that was David S. Sandberg.
That's Sandberg. Gosh, damn it. I always get them all mixed up. I guess maybe Sandberg could even do it. Maybe.
Bring him back into the fold.
Yeah. See what happens. I don't know. It's kind of, again, Conjuring is such a hit or miss now, where it's going to depend on the story. It's probably, I think we're in the embryonic stages here. So, like, they haven't even actually signed on anyone. They only have the writer, and the producers here. So this is like super, super new. But yeah, I don't know. They have to do something to get this back, and it's like you can't even say getting, like we looked at Annabelle Creation, where I thought they were in line. They were like, okay, we finally got this one, and now we have a trajectory to go with, and they didn't do it. So it's like, even now thinking, okay, third one didn't hit, but I think it did great at the box office. So who knows if they are even aware that maybe it doesn't feel, because I don't know if I've heard a lot of positive things coming out of The Conjuring 3. So for that fourth one, I don't even know if they're concerned about, getting this thing back on track, because I don't even know if to them that this is even off the rails yet.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see, honestly. Like I am just kind of sitting here like, well, Conjuring's Conjuring. It'll be here, and we'll see. I don't know. It's going to take a big swing to honestly derail it, because, like you said, it is for that general movie going audience. That's just like, oh, Conjuring, that's a scary movie. You know what I mean? Where it's like they don't go out of their way to see things like Terrifier 2 or something like that. You know what I mean? So, that's the audience that it panders to, and it works. And I'm happy for it if you love them. And it's like, I'm not sitting here saying that if you do love them, that you're, again, we have to go back and say that, it might be an elitist take what we're saying on there, but it's just kind of like, that's just where we sit with it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, don't judge us. We like what we like, and Conjuring for a time we liked, but it's just kind of gotten too serialized for us.
What can you do?
But we'll go see anything with Michael fucking Myers in it, I guess. So
yeah, why not? Apparently, it's a curiosity, is what it is. We're married to Michael Myers, not so much to the Warrens. But I do know one director that will not be directing Conjuring 4 because he's busy, and that is David Gordon Green, which brings us to our next topic here. With Michael Myers done terrorizing the patrons of Haddonfield for the foreseeable future, or so they say, David Gordon Green has moved on to his next established franchise, The Exorcist reboot. In another planned trilogy is set to start filming in the next few weeks. Green said, "We've got an amazing cast coming together and scripts we're all excited about. With the Halloween franchise in the rearview mirror, Green may have a few fans to win back after Halloween ends. Does the Exorcist trilogy seem like it is better suited for David Gordon Green, or will we see him light a match and burn this franchise down to the ground?" Now, Dylan, we did talk about this one probably a couple months ago when it was more so announced, and they had some news on it in terms of the synopsis and stuff, which is, again, they didn't release anything in terms of story or anything like that. It's still the pretty bare bones, the basic story, which doesn't seem very unique at all. But now we're actually going to be moving into production here in the next few weeks, which now we have the hindsight of the full trilogy that he produced with the the Michael Myers, the Halloween stuff. So it's kind of like, are we wandering aimlessly now? I mean, like, is there even more hesitation? I think for me, after Halloween ends, I'm like, okay, this was definitely a different take. Was it the best take? No, I don't feel that way. But I guess for me, it's gonna be hard to compare Halloween to The Exorcist. Again, I'm not married as much to The Exorcist, so it doesn't have. I'm not going to go into that one probably with the harshness that I did with the Halloween trilogy. But again, this is another one where he's going after an established franchise. So it's going to come with that established audience. Some people who are just absolutely adore The Exorcist. And The Exorcist does have those sequels, which I know 3 is a big one that a lot of fans have found a love for, probably with a reappraisal over the past few years. So he's probably going to have maybe not as hardcore fan base that Halloween has, but he's going to have a decently hardcore fan base for the Exorcist franchise as well.
Yeah, I have a couple of things on this just to say, really. I think that, number one, you said it, where we're not nearly as married to the Exorcist franchise as we are Halloween. So I think that'll take the sting away from us a little bit. You might see us come out here and like these movies a little bit more because we won't be as critical. That being said, I fear when they put the name David Gordon Green with a trilogy now, just because with Halloween Ends, and it's like, again, if you like the movie, I'm happy for you. I'm not trying to take that away, but like, it's just, you can tell that he got bored with what he was doing and decided to take it in another direction. And for some people that worked. And I think that nobody has really called us out on it, but I know it could be, as we continue this channel and people rewatch some of our Halloween coverage here, where it's like, we've been saying we want something different. But for me, it's one of those things where it's like, you can't I don't want you to change everything in the third act. I want you to finish off what you started. You committed to this, finish it in the same tone and the same story vein, and then you can try something different after that, or you can start by trying something different. For me, I don't like that they just kind of did the old switcheroo in the third act, and then kind of made the whole Laurie Michael storyline, that had been so prominent in the last 2 films, kind of second fiddle. And
Yeah.
I worry that, is a trilogy too much for him to take on? Maybe, but I don't know how much of a fan he is of Exorcist. I don't know what his plans are. I don't even know if Danny McBride's attached to this. So does that change it when it comes to the writing? There's a lot of things that are up in the air about it. Do I think that he's still a competent filmmaker? Yeah, I love 50-50 and stuff like that, like things that he did before Halloween. But it's just one of those things where I just don't know if saddling him with a horror trilogy is such a good idea, because clearly he got bored. Clearly he kind of wanted to change things up, and it didn't work for a lot of people. Because again, the first 2 films I took some issues with, but I resigned myself to knowing exactly what we were going to be getting. And, I'm always happy to be surprised, but I just don't think that taking a drastic left turn was the way to go.
Yeah. And, going into, again, that Halloween Ends and us saying we want something different. I think we established that pretty clear, where you have an obligation, in a sense, to wrap up that third film in a tight bow for the audience who's been sitting with you for the last 2 films, which he didn't do. Like, again, if, like you said, if he started with trying to tell something different, or ended that one and then began something to try tell something new, perfect. I mean, go for it. Give us a unique take on something. Like, if that was a standalone, I think that would have been more so an intriguing story. Just didn't fit in line with the original story that he was telling. But to go into this Exorcist, for this one, I think I have a little more faith. Like you said, giving him 3 full films right out of the gate here, I don't know if that's really the right way to go. Maybe a direct sequel to that original would be the way to go. and then kind of I don't, for me, I don't like that we're already saying there are going to be 3 films. No matter what, we already have a 3-film deal. We're telling a story that's going to be taking place over the next 3 films. It's like, why not just do one and done, and then revisit it down the line? Just, the basics. If there's something there, great. If there's not, no problem at all. But for this one of the things that I do think about, especially in these subgenres of horror, where I think the slasher subgenre is a little harder to storytell in, because when an audience goes in, especially in what we're used to from the 80s, they weren't really concerned too much about telling too many stories. So when you have a filmmaker coming in and they want to tell a story, it becomes a little difficult to try to this kind of difficult balancing act where we have to please with the slasher element, but also with storytelling. Whereas kind of going this exorcist to supernatural, you really focus on the storytelling, probably for the majority of the film. You sprinkle in the supernatural things, and then by the end is really where you're tackling it, instead of trying to space out kills and that type of interest in it. So I think I think I have a little more faith with David Gordon Green going into the Exorcist franchise, because I think he can storytell for a little bit longer and kind of find that balancing act. Because telling a quality slasher story is a little difficult with that balancing act. So, and I think it's something that is very, very new now, because again, in the 80s, a lot of people really weren't concerned about really diving into deep storytelling and giving a lot of different elements to characters. Whereas nowadays, I think an audience kind of commands that a little more, where we want characters that we can latch onto, but we also want our kill. So it kind of becomes almost this difficult balancing act, especially when you're writing that story, to make a character someone cares about, but also I have to commit to these kills every so often. Then we have to maybe lighten the audience up with jokes, but the jokes can't be too tongue in cheek. So we have to find that route. So I think those slasher films are a little more difficult to write for than something like these supernatural ones. So I think I do see David Gordon Green finding or pleasing an audience a little more here than he did in Haddonfield.
And I hope you're right. And I think that there is a little bit of merit to that, where it's like, yeah, you can say that the slasher genre is a little bit of a harder beast to tame. And like I hope he really swings for the fences here, and he knocks it out of the park, because like I do think that from a technical side and everything, he's got a great visual style. And I
Yes.
mean, like, he really emulated the Carpenter feel. I'll say throughout the first 2 films, very, very genuinely, and there were shades of it in the last one. But it's just one of those things where it's like I think that, again, he could really, if all he can do is emulate the feel and the look, then I mean, it's just style over substance. But this is really going to be that testing ground for me. Like, if I come out of The Exorcist and I'm just like, okay, it is what it is, then for me, I just don't think that David Gordon Green needs to be tackling big horror franchises. I'm not going to say that he needs to not do horror. I would never say that about anybody. But like, maybe he needs to start working on projects of his own.
Yeah.
And kind of see what kind of horror he can bring us, and maybe then all of the circuits will connect, and then we can see what happens next. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm interested, of course. Like, I'm very trying to be optimistic about it. And I think that it's, again, I've liked his filmmaking before he did Halloween, and I'm not as married to the Exorcist franchise, so we'll see. We know, is this coming out next year or the year
Yeah,
after?
I think this is October 2023.
Okay, so then we don't have a whole lot of time to wait on that, so we'll know sooner rather than later. But it's exciting. I think that once I see the first trailer and we start talking about that, we'll kind of have a better handle on things here. Of course, we'll see kind of what they're going with. And who's this being produced by? Is this
Yeah, this is Blumhouse. Same.
okay, so it's
Yep.
Blumhouse, same team, same
Yep.
all that. Okay, Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I don't know. We will just have to wait and see here. Because, like I said, the wounds are still a bit fresh, and I'm here. I'm not trying to sit here and just point fingers, but it's like this is really ultimately the big testing ground, I would say, for me and David Gordon Green when it comes to big franchise horror.
But and that's also my concern is he shooting himself in the foot here, where uh, he's not even going to have that almost palate cleanser film to okay, we got done with Halloween. Everyone's going to say what they're going to say about it. Let me move into something that's more my speed that people know me for, and then let's revisit The Exorcist. He's legitimately going from one franchise to another franchise in very much the same vein, where it's like, oh, we're negating all the sequels, and this is a direct sequel, and we're creating more films here. So, in terms of getting what post Exorcist looks like after this three film arc, is there gonna be horror fans that are gonna say, let I'm not done with David Gordon Green, but I want to see him do an original film. I just don't think there are going to be horror fans giving him the time of day if this doesn't work, So I think it's a bold move to kind of go from one to the other. And yes, I think he was signed on to this. Yeah, he was definitely signed on this because we covered it before Halloween ends. So it's like right now he's, Halloween Kills. I think he lost more and more confidence as the Halloween franchise went along. So, Halloween Ends was really that deciding factor of, is he going to win that audience back or not? And he didn't, at least for the majority of them. So kind of going into this Exorcist here, I think there's going to be a lot of hesitation especially leaving off with Halloween Ends, where Michael wasn't in that for that very long period of time. So people are going to start asking questions about this one. Is this even going to be worth my time? Is this going to be similar to the original Exorcist, or is this going to be something completely off the wall different, and I'm not even going to get that Exorcist feel? So this one, again, going in, this is really going to make or break him, I think. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I have a little more faith with this one, but time will tell. We have less than a year before we're sitting on this channel reviewing it.
Yeah, that's what they say. And I mean, again, we'll just have to wait and see. But before we jump into the next topic, I did want to mention this. I didn't get to bring this up in the opening. We went through pretty quick, but did you hear about the kind of controversy that happened at the premiere with for Halloween Ends between Danielle Harris, the Scout Taylor Compton, and Jamie Lee Curtis?
No.
So I listened to their podcast, and we're not really here to report on drama or anything like that, but I just thought it was kind of telling for, again, showing that maybe the gas was running out of the tank for everybody as far as this trilogy goes.
Yeah.
Because they have their podcast Talk Scary to Me, where they discuss, like, they got news that they were going to the premiere, and that was a big thing for them. And so they put out a podcast, I think like Tuesday or Monday. And like Bloody Disgusting and Dread Central all reported on this too, which was kind of sad to see. But I guess they went to the after party, and they were excited to meet Jamie Lee Curtis, because Danielle Harris had never met her, and neither had Scout Taylor Compton. They go up to her, they introduce themselves, and Jamie Lee Curtis is just like, I have no idea who you are, and I don't watch those movies. I don't, like, they're not my thing. Like, not even like oh, hey, yeah, I don't really watch those movies, but it was apparently just very dead straight there.
Wow.
And then just kind of like, so what are we doing here? You guys like want a picture or something? And it was just like, oh, wow, that's cold as fuck. Like, that sucks.
Yikes.
And they're not trying to, like, stir up a bunch of drama, but it kind of fucked them up a little bit. They said, like, they were just like, damn, we really looked up to you and shit. And like, you don't have to even like our movies, but like, it was just kind of like she gave him the cold shoulder almost.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, oh, fuck, dude. Like, that sucks to hear.
Yeah.
So, but it's, again, it's like, I guess just kind of shows, I think, the gas was running out of the tank for not just David Gordon Green and team, but Laurie Strode as well. So
Yeah, I'm curious to see what obviously no one's going to speak ill of the direction they went in the film that they're starring in. I'm just curious to see what the narrative will become, 10 years down the line of how
and
everyone feels about this one. Because,
yeah,
even then, I don't necessarily, Jamie Lee Curtis has talked about, like, 5 or 4, 5, and 6 before. So I find it hard to believe that she wouldn't at least be aware of Danielle Harris.
that's what I thought. That was weird too. I was like, man, like Danielle Harris, kind of like she's just as big a deal in this franchise as you are to some of these fans.
Yeah.
Like in my book, she's like one of the bigger characters,
Yeah,
at
she has a
least, you know.
hardcore following. So,
Mhm.
and she is very much defined in the Halloween kind of universe. So, for me, that one is so weird. I don't know how that interaction would have went down like that. So awkward.
Yeah,
But
I would encourage you. Their podcasts are only like an hour and like 10 minutes or so. So like
yeah,
I'd encourage you to listen to it just to hear their side of it. But yeah, I listened to that just like, damn, that sucks. Like
yeah,
that's it. And the only, like I said, the only reason I bring that up is because we're talking about David Gordon Green getting a trilogy here. And if that's the kind of energy that we kind of get, I know they're two separate people, but like if the gas runs out that quick for you guys, like, I know that's like a 5-6 year commitment, but like it's one of those things where it's like you have to be committed to that. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like you got to understand this is what you're doing. This is the undertaking you have. It's kind of like if Tom Holland signed on to be Spider-Man and then by No Way Home is just like completely checked out and
yeah,
fucking over it. It's like, dude, like you signed on to do this. Like you're talking about like 7 to 10 movies here, and like you can't. You got to understand what you're getting into, brother. You're playing in the Halloween realm, especially to like some alum cast members, because like that's the thing. Whether your movie sucks or not, or people don't like it or not, it's like after time goes on, like they even said it on their podcast where they'll go to signings and people will be like, "Hey, didn't really care for your movies, but I love you. Can I get a signature?" Kind of thing. Where it's like the horror community is still gonna like, wrap its arms around you and give you a big hug. You know
oh
what I mean?
yeah,
Because like it's like if I met Scout Taylor Compton in person, I'd have 100 questions for her. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not a huge fan of the Rob Zombie movies, but it's just one of those things where I'd just be like, what's it like working on that set? Like, tell me about that. Tell me about your version of Laurie Strode. Where'd that come from? All that. So it's just like, I just don't understand why, even if Jamie Lee had felt that way, why she couldn't just put the face on for a few minutes and just be like, hey, like, again, not a huge fan of your movies, or I've never even seen them, but hey, I recognize who you are now that you say it, and like, let's take a picture, let's be cool, calm, and courteous. That's all you had to do. Like,
yeah. And because especially with them, there's this kinship there where it's like, Jamie Lee started off as a final girl, and then Danielle Harris kind of picked it up later on in the 80s when, Jamie Lee didn't come back for her role. And then Scott Taylor Compton, came in and with the whole Rob Zombie thing, kind of revamped the whole Laurie Strode character. So, there's a talking point there. There's at least a conversation to be had, even if you're not really aware of the films. You know that they've worked on the Halloween sets before, and all these different
they're in
iterations.
the family.
Yeah,
Like that's the way they always portray it whenever you watch these bonus features and shit. Where it's like, she's very like, oh, we're a family, we're doing this, and it's just kind of like, damn, are you just really saying that? And she probably is. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like she's probably just saying that for the bonus features, but it's just kind of like, shit, man, that sucks to hear.
yeah,
I like to have my blinders up a little bit when you come to some of these big Hollywood icons, or it's just like,
yeah.
yeah, you're a cool person, you're not a douchebag.
And then you get disappointed.
Yep, as you do. But we
Oh.
can move on to the next segment here, my boy.
All right. The Silent Hill game franchise is making a lot of big noise this week with a handful of announcements. During the Silent Hill transmission, Konami announced Silent Hill 2. The video game is getting a remake along with some new titles to add to the franchise, such as Silent Hill Townfall, Silent Hill Ascension, and Silent Hill F. Even a new film by Christoph Gans has been revealed based on the sequel video game, which will be titled Return to Silent Hill. Gans said the film will focus on psychological horror, even though all the same creatures and memorable sequences will be present. Will Konami have a lot of hits on their hands, or are they overextending themselves with so many new installments? Now, Dylan, I don't know too much about the Silent Hill franchise. I never saw the actual movie itself either. I just know it's been a staple in the kind of horror gaming community. So this one, you're going to have to lead me through the fog in a sense.
Yeah, so I mean, this is something that I'm more familiar with. Obviously, it's a huge horror game franchise, and we're talking about a movie. We're talking also about a movie here, so we had to cover it in some extent. Now, I haven't personally played any of the Silent Hill games. I have watched playthroughs of them. I understand their effect on the culture and everything. And it's one of those things where it's like I'm excited for this because I get to play a modernized version of these games and I get to kind of get on board, and I hope that they're going to be really, well done. But to kind of go through to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're talking about here. So the Silent Hill 2 remake, obviously Silent Hill 2 is held in such high regard. It's one of the staples of the franchise. People really love that game. And the fact that it's getting because recently they've been doing it with Resident Evil the last few
Yes, yep.
years, where it's
I've
like
been
they've
aware of
been
that stuff.
updating those. Yeah, and those have been really good. So it's like it's kind of doing the same thing here. And this franchise has been dormant for so long. Like it's, I think the last couple games that came out during the Wii era.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like, yeah, we're talking about mid 2000s here. So it's been better part of almost 10 years since a Silent Hill game has come out. So it's like they had to come out swinging, and that's why this was such a big announcement. But we're talking about Townfall, which is going to be made by the guys who made The Observation, which is apparently a pretty neat indie horror game that you can play on PC. And it's basically going to be like a new installment into the series. So it's like there's not a whole lot more information than that. They give you a little cinematic trailer for each one of these.
Yeah.
But it's not like a direct sequel or anything. It is kind of going to be telling a little story, a little bridge story. But it looks interesting, and I'm here for it. Then we have Return to Silent Hill, which is going to be a film, which is again going off of I think they're basing that off the game Return to Silent Hill. Isn't that what you said in the little
They're
opening?
basing it off the I thought it was the Silent Hill 2.
Okay, so gotcha. So that's where they're going with it. But yeah, no, that should be pretty interesting. That'll be fun. Again, I'm like you, I've never seen the Silent Hill movies.
Okay.
But I am very, very interested in what they're going to be doing here. I think that it's about time that we kind of get a modernization take on this, and to have I know that those movies are kind of held in high regard, so it's like it's one of those things where it's like they're kind of cult hits for some people. So having the original director come back and everything for that could be really cool. I hope that it works out.
It seemed like he had a lot of intriguing ideas. They had like a little 6-minute video of him talking about certain things. Sounds like he's um, very specific on what he wants to achieve with that film, which I think is great to have an actual direction with it. Even though I don't know too much about it, it seems like just from that little thing saying it's going to be very psychological. I think that's going to be a very interesting take. I did see kind of a little bit of the glimpses of Silent Hill 2 and kind of what that storyline entails. So I do think that Return to Silent Hill, the actual film itself, seems pretty interesting. Even though we've really got it's just an announcement. We don't really have too many details yet.
And it's like the thing about Silent Hill is it's all about atmosphere,
Yeah,
and tension. So it's like that's kind of the whole selling point for these games and these movies. So that is exciting. The only thing on here that I don't think is going to hit for me at least, and I don't know for a lot of people, is this Silent Hill Ascension, because that is an interactive video streaming experience.
okay.
So it's not a game or anything like that. It's not really even a movie. But it's like, okay, we'll see what happens. It's from some of the creators of Dead by Daylight are tackling this one. And it has associations with J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. So, they're also coming behind this. We'll see how it goes. I have no idea what this is going to premiere on or how you're going to be able to do it. It could come out and be totally revolutionary and cool, so I'll eat my words there, but I just don't know. That very gimmicky in the way they word that. So it's just like, I don't know about that one. And then that's going to bring us into the final piece here, which has probably got me the most interested, is that we're talking about Silent Hill F, which is set in the 1960s, pure horror game. And it looks really interesting. It's got a lot of midsummer vibes with all the flowers and the plants growing on people and things like that. And it looks really cool. Like from an aesthetic standpoint, it looks like it's going to be something really cool. And that's a new game. Again, another kind of offshoot of the series. So these aren't like mainline story games, not like Silent Hill 2 or Silent Hill 3, kind of deal. So it's like this is going to be one of those ones where they're just kind of telling a fresh story. And I'm actually very intrigued by that. I think the setting sounds cool. Setting it in the 60s is going to be interesting. So that's the one for me. If I'm going to pick up or play any of these, it'll probably be Silent Hill 2 and then this one.
Yeah. And I watched the interview with Christoph Gans, and then I did watch the trailer for Silent Hill F, and that one does look very intriguing to me. Just like you said, the time period seems really new and original. I think just kind of what they had shown in the trailer itself, I think presents a very interesting stakes and a circumstance just in general there. The atmosphere does look great. So I'm intrigued with this. This is not something that I'm familiar with, like I said. But I don't know. I may take a dive down the Silent Hill rabbit hole in terms of just kind of watching some playthroughs and things like that, because this really does seem like just from the little glimpses that I've seen, and I've seen some clips from the film itself as well. So they do have some terrifying moments in these the games and the film. So I do want to kind of dive down here and get some more information, because that Silent Hill F is something I'd be intrigued of. Like, I have a very controversial history with video games, so it's hard for me to commit to anything, but it is one that I would be intrigued to play. Do they have the, because I know they're talking about Silent Hill 2, is the original Silent Hill, is that remastered as well?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
So they're kind of jumping into 2 because it's a fan favorite, I believe. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that does well, that we'll be getting Silent Hill 1 and maybe 3 brought back into. I don't know about The Room, Silent Hill 4. I
Yeah.
don't know really where that sits with people,
I was
but I
just
know
asking
the first 3 are pretty popular.
because I was just curious, because I would love to try and hunt down the original Silent Hill if it was remastered, to kind of pop that one in just to see what it looks like. I just figured it wouldn't be like horribly expensive, but who knows? But yeah, this one, honestly, this news and these trailers have really got me interested in this franchise in general.
Oh yeah, no, and it's a cool franchise. It's something that I'm excited that they're kind of bringing back to the forefront. So, like I said, we can play some of this stuff and get to experience it, on our PS5s and stuff. So it's like, this is cool to me. I am excited.
Yeah, a lot of different fun things going on. So,
Oh yes.
all right,
But
let's move into our last bit of news here. Dee Wallace is getting back to her roots, but it doesn't involve aliens or Reese's Pieces. The new werewolf film, The Forest Hills, has named Wallace as Angela, an important character who is featured throughout the film and is stuck in the middle of the horror that unfolds as the story progresses. In addition to Wallace, Pet Sematary 2 alumni Edward Furlong will be playing Billy, who may have a little more animalistic side to his character, if you know what I mean. Director Scott Goldberg said, "This is very much a serial killer horror film. We don't want to cheapen the experience of a new unique werewolf movie. Can we be seeing the creation of a new cult werewolf hit, or should we have our silver bullets ready to put this film out of its misery?" And I mean, we're not getting trailer. We got what, a shot of Dee Wallace. I think we have a shot of Edward Furlong. That doesn't really show much here. show much here. We just kind of got a little synopsis of what the story is going to be about. So not a lot of information here. This is just kind of, I guess, a little bit more speculation of the quality of this film.
Yeah, we talked about it on our first episode, first thing we ever released on this channel, with werewolves versus swearwolves, where it's like, we're looking for more werewolf content, more stuff to start hitting us. This is intriguing. Obviously we love Terminator 2. We like Edward Furlong a bit. Dee Wallace she's a classic. I mean, she's in a ton of stuff, even just the Howling herself. So, it sounds like they have an intriguing cast. The only thing is, and not to disparage anybody, is that these actors, they tend to work in more of the C-list kind of, products these days.
Yeah.
Like, we got to just say it how it is. Dee Wallace was last in Jeepers Creepers Reborn. So, it's just kind of showing you where they kind of end up these days. And, I am still gonna remain optimistic because, again, the director is committed to practical effects and things like that, and I don't want to sit here and just say because it's indie filmmaking or because it's low budget that it's going to be bad, because obviously that's not the truth. But to me, it is one of those things where I'm like, okay, is this going to satisfy that itch that we kind of were looking for on that podcast? Probably not. But I mean, it's werewolf content, so I will take it and I will watch it and I'll give you my opinion on it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know, man. This could go either way for me, but I think just kind of my radar is kind of detecting that this might be lower grade.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with this. Am I expecting like another American Werewolf in London here? Absolutely not. I know they had talked about the transfer. They're anticipating a transformation scene that they're keeping practical, just because I think they said they grew up in the '80s, so that's what it was, and that's what they want us to stay true to. Which I'm intrigued to see what kind of their take is there. And like we had talked about on that Werewolves Not Werewolves, where I find a lot of these lower budget werewolf movies, it becomes kind of where I check out is when they do like this real questionable CGI. So if they're going to maintain practical effects here, I'm intrigued to see what that outlook is going to be. I don't feel like this is going to be really in-depth, high-end set pieces or anything like that. So I'm not really expecting it. I'm curious to see what the transformation and the creature itself will look like, especially if they're going to go practical, because that can take this film from just being mildly entertaining to a lot of fun. So
Yeah, 100%.
I'm
Practical effects will save this in the long run.
Yes. And this kind of saying this is going to be a serial killer kind of vibe to it. I'm hoping they kind of put a more unique spin on the storytelling here. And, I guess maybe they show the werewolf, but it doesn't have to be the mainstay of the whole film where, that maybe they're looking for a serial killer type deal. So I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do with this film. I'm just from the few things that we've had here. I mean, there seem to be a few positives. It just seems like in today's world, I mean, it's always been pretty much this way. You have to almost have a C-lister kind of attached to your, indie film kind of. So, you're going to get some audience, some crossover there coming in to see a Dee Wallace or an Edward Furlong. So, like you said, yeah, these actors tend to be in those C-list films nowadays with not really doing too much. But I'm intrigued to see how they're going to make use of them. For me, I would say Edward Furlong is a little bit more of the outlier rather than Dee Wallace, just because Edward Furlong tends to really. He's had a rough few years. I love the guy. I love Terminator 2 is great. American History X. I think he puts on great performances. It's just I know he's had a checkered past, and that's kind of really affected his work. I would love to see him get back on track to see what he does. I'm intrigued that they're saying that he's going to be the werewolf. That's what the director mentioned in a little synopsis. So I'm intrigued to see what they do with kind of his character. I know that I think the main character is going to be named Rico. So I think the quality and the kind of interest in the film as well is really going to lay on the shoulders of our main character there, and how well that can be delivered as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see at what capacity we're going to get this. I assume a streaming service will probably snap this thing up.
Yeah, I would guess
And
so.
then we'll be able to check it out then, which if that's the case, then great. Like I'd love to see it. I just get to throw it on and give my opinion real quick on it. And like I said, I'm here for werewolf content. I will take it. Am I still looking for that nice new high quality werewolf story? Of course. Do I think this is going to be it? Probably not. But hey, I will eat my words as always if I am wrong.
Maybe this will be a
Because
nice little appetizer for our big werewolf meal down the line in a few years.
hopefully. But alrighty, I guess we can transition into my segment of the show where we're going to be talking this week's Gorecast.
The top of the world, fabulous 1340 KAV, Antonio Bay.
Alrighty, kiddos. So, not a whole lot going on in the world this week. We have a couple of pretty neat things that I do want to talk about. The first one being, as far as new releases go, the only thing that really stuck out to me, and we'll be doing a review of this, of course, is Neil Marshall's new film is going to be hitting streaming this week on, I almost said Bloody Disgusting, Shudder. So, we'll have that to look forward to. So we're talking about The Lair, which that's going to be coming out on Friday. We've been covering that pretty extensively. We talked about it when it first got announced, and then we talked about it, just a couple of weeks ago with the trailer. So, that's pretty cool. Luke, how you feeling about The Lair now that we're coming right up on it?
I'm very intrigued by it. I think that kind of what do we do? Dog Soldiers really kind of leaned me toward being more intrigued, because we kind of I did a little more, I know we both watched The Descent, and then I watched Doomsday, kind of getting into that Neil Marshall content just to relive a lot of that stuff. So it's got me a lot more intrigued. The trailer seemed interesting. It's got the Descent vibes. It seems like he's back into form as to what we're used to seeing him with. So I'm definitely intrigued to check this one out, especially being on Shudder. I mean, sit down on a Friday evening, pop it on, and check it out. It's gonna be fun either way, I think.
No, I get you. And then the big release that we have in the theaters, which I don't know if we have settled on if we're going to go see this or not. It hasn't intrigued me too deeply, but maybe we'll kind of pitch it back and forth to each other and see where we land. Is Pray for the Devil is coming out this weekend. That's the movie, Luke, if you don't know, where it's the she's a nun and she starts learning how to do exorcisms. We've seen the trailer a couple of times.
Oh, that's right. I remember this now. As soon as you said it, I was like, I don't even know if I've seen the trailer for this film, but now I remember it. Yeah, we haven't talked about this one yet. As you can see, I didn't remember seeing the trailer for it. Maybe we'll do a little more research on this one to decide if we're gonna pull the trigger on this one to see it in the theater.
Could be fun. And then Wendell and Wild is coming out this weekend. I know you were pretty excited about that one.
I'm definitely going to check this one out.
So you may end up doing a solo review of that one. That one could be something, because I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to see that. I got a lot going on this week in general. But I mean, I think that, if anybody, I know you were really looking forward to it. Me, it was okay. But I think, if you end up,
you're not into the
checking that
lighter
out,
side of horror.
I am.
Bastard.
I spent yesterday watching Halloween Town 2, Calabar's Revenge, and Halloween Town High. So don't sit there and tell me that I'm not into the lighter side of horror. But no, yes, it's a little bit of a tougher sell for me, and I did have to subject myself to Hocus Pocus 2 for the show.
That is right.
So maybe I'll hop on board with this one, maybe not. But hey, if you end up checking it out, you might as well do a quick review for us.
Well, certainly I will.
Good. And then moving out of there, we'll talk about some of the stuff that's coming to our Blu-ray and 4K shelves as we're getting a little closer to that time. Let me just get this over here so that way we can share the little screen for you, because as you know, I like to do this little feature. I have a lot of good fun with it. So coming right out of the gate here, we have this from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment and Cine Museum. We have this 4K. They're claiming this is a steelbook, so I'm assuming that there's a
What?
metal box in here. Yeah, it's a big boy. Coming for the 50th anniversary of The Exorcist. I figured this was, appropriate considering what we had just talked about. So, I was very intrigued by it. They don't really show anything more than this, but hey, it's a classic film. Picking it up like this, I don't know how much this is going to cost. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty penny.
Oh, I'm
I don't
sure.
I don't know if it'll end up on my shelf due to that, but hey, if I can get my hands on it, I might. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the box art and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, that's gonna be the price point is gonna be the deciding factor on that bad boy.
Absolutely. And then we're kind of coming up here. Dawn of the Disc is always getting a shout out here from us. They're great. This is awesome. So, I was talking about how I wanted to get these so that way we could talk about them. And look, they just made it that much easier for us. They have a 3-pack for Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, 4, and 5.
And the
From
digital.
from Vestron Video. Yes,
They come
and the
out with some good
digital.
stuff.
They do. They do. These are the guys who they did what is that?
Abominable.
Abominable. Wait, no, they didn't. Did they do
Oh, they did?
Abominable? I thought that was a different company.
I don't know. You have to check.
But then they did that David Cronenberg movie. Shimmer or whatever.
Shiver.
Shiver. Yeah. That one they did, and I have that. It's a pretty
I
good
know they
release.
did Little Monsters as well. I've tried
Yes.
them.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is pretty exciting. This comes out on the 13th of December. So I will probably pick this bad boy up right away just so we have it, so we can start covering these movies at some point down the road. Maybe not this Christmas, but maybe one of these upcoming ones. Because like I said, I have not seen these. I've seen the first two. I think the first two are great fun. These are probably not awesome, but as you go along, but hey, look, he's got like a little worm creature. There's a worm creature going in this guy's head. So clearly this franchise goes off the rails somewhere.
I love it. Yeah, I think this franchise gets pretty wild down the line there, so I would definitely be intrigued. Again, I like the cover art here. I think it looks like a lot of fun. Plus, you get that digital. I think you can't really beat it here. I'm curious. They didn't put a price on this one yet?
We can go to pre-orders on Amazon real quick. $23.99, bro.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
That's a fucking pickup, dude. Like I'll probably pre-order that right after this. But yeah, no, that's exciting. And then there are a couple of good deals. There was one other thing that I noticed. Yeah, this is a big story. So Roy Lee, the producer of Barbarian here, hit this tweet, and I know I put this on our Twitter a couple days ago, and basically just said my piece on it. But yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. I'm happy to hear that we will be getting not only a physical release of Barbarian, but also that they recorded a commentary track. So there should be a commentary for it. Now, the real reason I wanted to bring this up on Gorecast is because this is pretty upsetting to me that this wasn't a guarantee out the gate that this movie was getting a physical release. That baffles me, considering, it was in a lot of theaters. It wasn't in a ton, but it was in a lot. And it's got some big name stars attached to it. And you're telling me this wasn't guaranteed to... I understand not getting like a 4K, but like at least a Blu-ray? Like, what's up with that, man?
I know. That's where it's like, I think there has to be a market out there at least. You can't just negate it entirely, where it's like, oh yeah, we're not going to release the Blu-ray or DVD or anything like that. It's like there's still such a market for physical media that, at least even if you're making smaller quantities, you have to release it in some fashion like that. Even if it's just at the big suppliers, Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart, just those solely. I mean, you have to make them available somewhere.
No, I agree. And like that's just the stuff that kind of it rubs me the wrong way, because it's just like, why are we like so, and I get it. It's like physical media at some point is going to be a specialty thing. It's going to go the way of like vinyl and stuff like that. And I don't think it has to go that way. But you know, it's the kind of the way the landscape's moving. But this movie especially, like I've been championing it since we saw it, and of course I want to own this movie. Like I think it would be a wonderful one to jam pack with a bunch of special features and all that, just because that twist is just so fantastic, and I think
Yeah.
it does have a lot of rewatch value. The other thing I wanted to attach to this is that if you guys don't know, this is going to be coming to HBO Max on Tuesday. So you'll be able
Yes.
to watch it at home if you haven't gotten a chance to go see it. So I will definitely be watching it a couple of times. I know my dad has been wanting to see it, but couldn't get to the theater in time to see it. So he's excited to check it out because of our reviews. So
I'm
I
very
think he's going
excited.
to like it.
I've been waiting for this one ever since it was announced for October 25th. I've just been counting the days that this is coming out. They have on the HBO Max app. They have the trailer playing and stuff like that. So there's definitely some anticipation on that film.
Yeah, and I mean that's the best thing they can do is kind of get people hyped up, and word of mouth again is one of those things where it's like that really I think pushed this film along as time has gone on, and like that's a beautiful thing because word of mouth used to be everything
Yeah.
when it comes to like indie horror or just indie film in general. And I know that there are a ton of people who, when we went and saw the film when it first came out, and I was just like, oh yeah, you gotta go see this. They're like, oh yeah, that's that one movie, isn't it? Oh, that's interesting, blah blah blah. And then as the weeks and months have gone on, people have been more excited. So like I've got a couple of friends and coworkers who are now like actually anticipating seeing it. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, it's fucking dope. And I'm excited to, at least for myself, selfishly, I'm excited to check it out like 5 more times. Like I am here for it. I want to see it, and I love it. I can't wait to own it. And I am hoping and praying that we do get an official physical release, because like for me, the fact that it wasn't a guarantee is just shocking still. Like that's just garbage.
Especially that the idea that there was a commentary track. I
Yeah,
cannot wait to
recorded.
hear that.
I know Zach Krieger and everybody on there. I'd love to talk to him about this movie for a little bit. So like I'm just putting
Absolutely.
my hat out there. If he just so happens to stumble across this video, hey, I sent you a message on Instagram. Hit us back because we want to set up an interview with you. But I'm sure he's inundated with stuff.
I'm sure.
We're on a long list of pundits that have been trying to get a hold of this guy. But the last thing that I have for today that I wanted to share was a little bit more NECA news. Obviously, we got the 31 Nights of Fright, and this got announced for us. It's just concept, so it's not, this isn't like an actual photo or anything of it, but it is the Ghostface Ultimate Action Figure version 2. This is the one coming from Stab 8. So, we had some nobody really knows this unless you've been paying attention to us on Sunday Scaries and stuff, but we have an interesting take on the latest Scream film. We weren't huge on it, but this excites me. One, because my Ghostface back there, I went to position his arm up and it fucking broke on me. So
Oh
thanks again,
no.
NECA. Again, when I said a few weeks ago when we talked about, or a couple months ago when we talked about quality control and NECA, like, guys, you're killing me. I had only had the thing out of the box for maybe a couple weeks. I had hardly moved him at all. I put him in one position and left him, and then all I was doing was just trying to lift the knife over his head, and the arm went like that. And then I was just like, well, fuck it. So it's just kind of resting there.
Yeah.
But this is nice. This is cool. I will grab this one to make up for it. And it comes in, it's cool because it comes with all of these accessories. So you get the masks again, which I have the other masks too. So I assume they'll just swap right on.
Yeah.
But it comes with that flamethrower from Stab 8 and all this other good stuff. So it looks like a fun one. Like, honestly, I'm excited to snag this one up. I like me some Ghostface.
No, yeah, it's unique. I like that they're kind of venturing out instead of just the main stuff, and that they're doing something from the Stab fictional films from the Scream movies. I think that's a lot of fun. See, like this is the one that I saw. I thought that was.
Yeah, all it is a removable cloak.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like you have to buy 2 figures. This is you can just take the cloak off and then you have him with that flamethrower, which, funny enough, and this is the chrome mask. So it's like it's not just a white mask. You remember in the
Yep.
it's the chrome. But the thing that I wanted to point out that I didn't know this until we saw it was that when you saw the movie, that was Matthew Lillard's voice.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, doing the voice for this guy, that was Matthew Lillard.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh,
thought that
that's
was
perfect.
fucking funny.
That's
But
wonderful. I had no idea until you just told me that.
yeah, no, I found that out later on.
But I like that they're doing this because this kind of opens up the door for some offbeat releases from NECA, not just the usual suspects that we get. Maybe we'll just get some things that only live in actual horror films, as properties from them. So I'm intrigued to see where this is going to lead. I think this is a fun release. I don't know necessarily if I'll pick this one up just because it's Stab. But regardless, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I said, for me, it's going to be a pickup just because I need to replace my other one, and this is, I think, a fun concept. Because at the end of the day, if you just want Ghostface, you can just throw the white mask on and have Ghostface.
Yep.
But if you want, something a little more interesting, you can do that as well. So I'm just like, I like the versatility here. And we're getting that flamethrower effect that we have with McCready back there, which I absolutely adore. So, for me, this is a good pickup. This is one that I probably won't pre-order anything. I'll wait till it comes to Amazon or it comes to Target. But for me, yeah, that's going to be a pickup. Like I am super excited for that. But that is going to wrap it up here for me on the Gorecast, folks. That's all we got for this week. So,
oh man, well, I mean, some good stuff coming out. We got that Silent Night, Deadly Night kind of trilogy coming out there, and that Barbarian is always going to be a talking point with us, and then that NECA figure is pretty intriguing. So,
oh yeah,
a
no,
lot
I
of
like
good
all that
stuff
stuff
on the horizon there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess that's gonna wrap us up here for today, Luke. Wouldn't you say?
I would say so, but I mean, yeah, that puts a bookend for the Sunday Scaries this week, but a lot more coming down the pipeline this week, so you got to stick with us because a lot more releases on the channel.
Oh yeah, no, we're still deep into Splattercast. We got some good stuff coming to you this week. We got a new Splatterthon. My bad. We got a new podcast coming on Monday. Of course, we're going to be talking about that. A couple of live streams coming your way. Obviously, I'm going to be putting it up later today. The Halloween 4 is probably going to be looking like maybe next Friday. We still have to figure out our schedules here, but I'm thinking Friday night on that bad boy be a good time for us to all sit together and check out Halloween 4. And then, obviously, only reason we've been doing them on Saturdays, but personally, I got some stuff I got to do Saturday night. I got to take the little guy trick or treating, first time doing that. So we're going to be doing that. I'll be posting some pictures on the Instagram and all that of all his first Halloween experience. So if you're family oriented, keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's coming up. We got our giveaway live stream, of course, where we're going to be giving away a copy of the Black Phone, as well as a Splatterthon Volume 1 mug, which Luke has all that there for us. And that's exciting. We got a couple of comments on there. I'm going to start throwing some little intros, I think, at that, just to try to get people, because looking at our retention, it seems like once we start wrapping things up, people click off. So I don't think they've heard a lot about it. So
yeah,
if you're not paying attention, you're not. But if you're here with us, thank you. We always appreciate it when you stick around for the end of the show. But other than that, we got a couple of new videos. Of course, another episode of Chucky dropping this week. Some reviews for, like we said, The Lair is a guarantee. You might get Prey for the Devil and Wendell and Wild. So, we're just going to have to wait and see how we feel on that. And I also think we have Cabinet of Curiosities starting to drop this week. We do, too.
Yes.
So that's going to be interesting. That'll be a little sporadic because it's not all coming out on one day.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna kind of try to get that. We're gonna figure out what we want to do on that. but we will get your review for all that because that's going to be really cool too.
I'm very intrigued. Another busy week heading our way. A lot of content to consume as usual. So
Coming right up on
very excited.
Halloween, baby.
Yep. We're November 1st. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, sleep and rest and
Yes.
relax and just like be like, okay, we're back into just our normal flow. But this has been great. This has been a lot of fun, and we get to do this every year, so it'll be a good time. Other than that, guys, you can follow us on our social media, of course, at SplattercastPod on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Keep up with us on there with all the latest and greatest. And yeah, again, if you guys are new to the channel, if you're just stumbling across this video, thank you for showing up and watching this far. But we are doing our best to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the month. We're just about to cross 400, it looks like, or we did this morning. I haven't checked, but we're right around there. So if we could get to 500 by the end of Monday next week, that would be awesome. And we'd really appreciate it. We're really pulling out all the stops this month, and then we're just planning on doing a whole bunch of great content for you guys as the year goes on. And yeah, it just would mean a lot. But yeah, I guess that's about everything. Did I plug it all? I'm pretty sure I did.
I think you got everything. What do we have?
Okay.
One more episode of Better Off Dead?
Yes, we do have one more
out.
episode of Better Off Dead. Yep, that'll be
a
coming
real
to you
fun
on
one.
Wednesday. Yes, that's my pick, the final pick here of the month, and that's a personal one. There's a vendetta here on this one. I got a lot to say, so I'm excited for you guys to hear that.
But yeah, other than that, I think that wraps us up here for this Sunday Scary. So until next week, I'm Luke Janesco.
And I'm Dylan Newell.
And friends, stay scared.